What current issues will future generations find unacceptable? Lack of privacy. I remember when the Patriot Act was controversial. Absolutely, I recently learned that per capita, Halton, Maine has some of the most surveillance in the country. If that's happening in a tiny town in Maine, no one has any privacy. Best testing grounds would be small, rather isolated communities. Yes, it's also near the Canadian border, which is probably partially the reason as well. Nothing really, especially during the winter, but Border Patrol are quite active in that area because Canada is very close. Even in most of Maine, Halton is considered remote. Maine, of all places, was like the second or third place after Minnesota, where Trump sent ICE. It was obviously revenge because he hates our governor. The Patriot Act passed the Senate 99-1, and the one senator who voted against it lost re-election after his opponent campaigned on it. It was one of the most popular pieces of legislation ever passed. Because America lost their minds over 9/11 and ignored that it was a complete failure of law enforcement/interagency reporting and various other issues. They had all the information they needed to see it coming and failed. So they pointed the finger at the public saying, "You have too many rights. That is the problem." All over a single event which, while tragic, caused fewer pointless deaths than are claimed on U.S. roads every month. Yet Americans still drink and drive, speed, and otherwise give no fucks about road safety. As if those people are any less dead. Addressing deaths linked to accidents would be an amazing platform to see politicians run on or debate, but for whatever reason, we're fixated on trans athletes. 'Cause trans athletes is up there on the leading causes of death and poverty. No, Feingold won his re-election campaign in 2004 when the Patriot Act was a major issue. He lost re-election in 2010, and that was likely due to a general R environment that year. The Patriot Act passed the Senate 99-1, and the one senator who voted against it lost re-election after his opponent campaigned on it. It was 98-1, www.senate.gov/s/roll call votes, vote 1-7-1-0-13, and Russ Feingold, who voted against it, won in the succeeding election, en.wikipedia.org/Russ Feingold. Probably because boomers wouldn't shut up about, "I've got nothing to hide." I've seen their size 36 font screens. They should reassess that perspective. I doubt the future will be shocked. They probably will be shocked we had so much privacy, and probably assume that we had huge amounts of crime because of the lack of surveillance. As I'm sure surveillance will massively increase in the future. This is the first time I've heard this sentiment articulated, and, unfortunately, I agree. I hate to use the term sheep herd, but governments and corporations the world over are pushing for more and more privacy invasions, all from different starting points, and the sheep herd mentality is going for it full tilt. One of the biggest upsets to me is having caught the tail end of the whole never give out your real name or ASL from parents and grandparents who have willingly given all that away to social media. I, despite having done it myself, have now drifted back to the pro-privacy and share nothing personal mentality outside of hobbies. Even vaguely referring to my age group on Reddit is generally outside of my comfort zone nowadays. Nowadays, there are flock cameras, Equifax leaks, Cambridge Analytica, AI facial recognition cameras at stores, algorithmic topic or creator suppression, identity leaks, HIPAA leaks, etc., that everyone has been slowly desensitized to it. We're only aware of a fraction of the real data leaks. We're only aware of a fraction of the data out there that's leaked about us. Interconnectivity would be a better word to use. I remember getting a talk in middle school how you shouldn't put your kid's name/jersey number as a bumper sticker, because then they can identify you by name and call you over. And the stranger danger talk. Crazy how we went from that to posting literally everything. Never get in a car with a stranger. Fast forward, your Uber is here. I, despite having done it myself, have now drifted back to the pro-privacy and share nothing personal mentality outside of hobbies. I just do this because I don't want my entire life on the internet in general. Like, I don't mind social media in general as a concept. I just don't want any part of it outside of a few posts on Reddit a day or something. The way my parents and siblings dive-bombed into Facebook's crazification algorithms seems stressful and bad for their mental health in general. They all try to talk to me about it, and I have to remind them I really don't give a shit about what's happening in some rural podunk town that's being used as a political wedge. These are the same people that told me 25 to 30 years ago I was addicted to the internet because we lived in the middle of nowhere and I liked to make friends and chat online and had no desire to go do dumb teenage shit. They basically went from nothing to totally widespread overnight. There are a ton of people who still don't even know what they are. In Canada, they want surveillance directly on our phones. Everyone I talk to about it doesn't care, or they support it to catch the bad guys. I feel like I'm going insane. As an older millennial, it was fucking wild to see all the Alpha and Gen Z liberals on Reddit start defending the fucking Patriot Act a while ago. It felt like I was on an episode of When Being a Contrarian Goes Wrong. Yup, frog has been boiled for 25 years, and here we are. And it's still heating up. Age verification is going to kill the anonymous internet for good. This is a huge regret of mine. Why did I voluntarily give away my DVD collection? People made fun of me for years for clinging to my DVD collection. I have one of those DVD cases with sleeves of discs. Now they envy me and my ability to watch damn near anything of my almost 350 collection. Media thrift stores and those $5 movie bins are a great place to get started again. Same, got called old and made fun of. Now those same kids come to me wanting to borrow movies that their streamers aren't currently hosting. Still buy some every week. My husband and I joke that it's just a civilization preservation project at this point. Currently just under 3,700 movies. Same, got called old and made fun of. Now those same kids come to me, wanting to borrow movies that their streamers aren't currently hosting. In fairness, there was a long stretch where it really felt like we'd ascended to the future TM, with Netflix having most everything watchable under one roof. Then every company decided they wanted their own slice of the pie, but for some reason their tinier slice was actually worth 20% more per month than what Netflix was charging, actually, exponentially raising the cost for consumers. And they wonder why people are unsubscribing. Yeah, this is where they got me. I shouldn't have trusted capitalism, but loved the idea of freeing up all that space in my house, and really loved the idea of living in the future, where you pay one low price and have access to almost anything. No ads. As an environmentalist, I enjoyed the idea of less plastic in the landfills as well. Got rid of a lot, including almost all of my books. I moved with books too many times and embraced their ebook replacements wholeheartedly. I'm never making that mistake again. I'm building up the collection and probably have about 100 or so Blu-ray/4K now. Multiple shelves of books, about 20 or so of my favorite albums on CD. And I find that it's so much more satisfying to see stacked shelves full of the art my wife and I love. It's not just a collection. It's an archive of who we are and what we value. We're really curating a library of our own. Every time we watch something new, we discuss whether we need it for the library, and that's a hobby in and of itself. There's lots of joy to be had in physical media. If anyone in this thread hasn't taken the plunge yet and is thinking about it, I highly recommend getting started. I shouldn't have trusted capitalism, but loved the idea of freeing up all that space in my house and really loved the idea of living in the future, where you pay one low price and have access to almost anything. No ads. As an environmentalist, I enjoyed the idea of less plastic in the landfills as well. Got rid of a lot, including almost all of my books. I moved with books too many times and embraced their ebook replacements wholeheartedly. There's a reason Gabe Newell of Valve said piracy is almost always a service problem and not a pricing problem. When you can pirate any media from one site and get it the day it comes out, full quality, download for higher quality, or stream for faster, suddenly you're in the future. Meanwhile, I found out that my Fellowship of the Ring extended cut wouldn't play nicely with the PS5, so I'm debating whether to try ripping it on my PC or just giving up on watching it this year. I did get the non-extended cut that belonged to me working. My wife's was the extended edition, but it started skipping around Rivendell. But God forbid I be able to transfer my physical license to some digital format. Probably a silly question, but do you have any photos of your collection? That's an impressive number, and my brain is having trouble visualizing it. You should join r/collections to see all the similar pics you want. The thrift store near my office literally throws away any donated DVDs that aren't kids' movies. They had boxes filled with them and nobody would buy them. 'Cause for a while, streaming was legitimately a better option than physical. Blockbuster didn't die without cause. Started to buy physical games and movies. Man, the same games that I have, digital feels different when you first have to get a box with the disc. And also, movies on disc, even 720p, 8K UHD, 16-bit HDR, 1/200 streaming. Yeah, I feel like subscription and constantly online stuff needs more pushback. Some of these websites, recipe websites, are notorious for this, are absolute cancer. Where is the data that pop-up ads are good for a company? I'd boycott them out of spite if I even took a moment to see what company has the audacity in the first place. If what I'm reading moves and I have to re-find where I was, I instantly close it. God, yes, subscribing for content kinda makes sense, but paying a subscription fee for functions a car or device has built in. The best is paying a subscription fee and then still getting and asking ads. What I'm really concerned about is the conjunction of three trends, which are the conversion of most tech products to incorporate AI, the conversion of everything to a subscription-based product, and token-based charges. It's a very small step from where we are right now to a place we are charged with checking our emails. The right thing to do is to start converting your daily driver apps to services that aren't AI first. I think you are right on with the token-based charges, but not for AI usage. Netflix could move to a model where you get 10 movies a month or 20 hours of viewing time. After that, you are automatically billed $1 for every 30 minutes. Spotify could do the same. The issue isn't so much that we don't fight back, we don't have options. Every streaming service is increasing prices and using ads. The market has been cornered and every option is the same pricing model. Does this include corporations buying up real estate and ensuring everyone is stuck paying insane rent? Yes, being nickel and dimed to death. Not being able to own things we used to, even as prices increase. We need to go back to being okay with imperfection and going to see imperfect artists in our communities. Flock cameras effectively being able to track you as good as an attached GPS tracker. More people need to be talking about this. In May 2025, a Texas sheriff's deputy searched a nationwide network of more than 83,000 automatic license plate reader cameras to track a woman suspected of having a self-administered abortion. The cameras, operated by surveillance tech company Flock Safety, scanned roadways, traffic lights, and police cars to log her vehicle's movements across multiple states. That's fucking dark. Orwellian as fuck. Not even North American, but this shit amazes me. How can they do this with abortions, but when kids go missing they can't? No, it's all about the children. As in kidnapping and raping them. That's Trump's agenda. They don't care about kids, they care about controlling women. They will vote to spend millions on anti-abortion rhetoric, while also voting to cut funding to all the childcare and newborn benefit programs they can. They don't care how awful a child's life is, so long as they grow up angry and uneducated and turn into good little MAGAT voters. Circle of life and all that. They do it for kidnappings as well. But the problem there is they're usually just working off of a vehicle description. Without knowing the license plate, these systems are mostly useless, because the people kidnapping the children are the same people that own the corporations. I hadn't heard of this particular case. I remember a few years ago people were suing to stop this sort of thing. I remember the legal argument was basically that license plates are public data. A cop can legally stand there and read your license plate. So legally, why can't they automate that? It's a terrifying technology. The abortion ban is a particularly good counter to the idea that if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Laws can change. Things that were legal can become illegal. Things you didn't need to hide might become something you need to hide. That's not even to mention abuse. A cop stood at my truck and told me my license plate was invalid just last week. I told him to check again. He said no, proof of registration is the law. Do you have proof of registration? Handed him 4 different things, showing my license plate was valid. He actually said, "So where is this plate that's valid?" I said, "It's on the truck." He insisted that the tag I had documentation for was not the tag on my truck. I finally said, "Babe, do you need me to spell it for you?" He just stared at me, then looked at the papers, then walked to the back of the truck to look at the tag, then the papers again, then the tag again. Came back all pissed off and said, "Well, I just didn't put 2 and 2 together." I said, "No surprise there. You can't read, so state gave you a gun. Am I getting a ticket or can I go?" And he said, "Be careful pulling out," then he left. I realize this has nothing to do with your comment. I'm just still irritated that this moron gets a badge and a gun. I think Flock is a good example of how most of these "how could you let this happen" scenarios unfold. We don't know they're happening until they've already become part of the infrastructure. I can attest to this, as this comment section is the first I've ever even heard of flock cameras. I at first thought people were talking about a flock of camera drones that just fly around cities. Yep, a lot of police departments and city councils snuck these through without any kind of public knowledge or debate. Corporations basically having the same rights as a human being. It's like that saying that's attributed to Robert Reich: "I will believe corporations are people when Texas or Georgia executes one." A lot of states have 3-strike rules. If your company fucks up 3 times, it should cease to exist. Yes, void the corporate charter, imprison C-suite executives and board of directors, seize all equity, and convert the former corporation to an employee-owned cooperative. This is the reason nothing ever happens. The people in charge aren't held accountable beyond the temporary stock drops. I heard somewhere that up until the 1870s or 1880s, the government had the right to seize corporate charters and sell off the assets to the shareholders if they weren't acting for the good of the American people. I would support something like this for companies that charge extortionate prices for medicines or who exploit their monopolies. We barely have antitrust anymore. It needs to happen. Looking at you, Ticketmaster, Live Nation. Yup, in some important cases, corporations have more rights than people. At this point, I'd love to see a fraction of accountability. There is none, and don't try to tell that a fine is accountability. It is not. If the fine is less than the profits gained from breaking the law, then it's just a business cost. I don't recall seeing a fine bigger than the profits. There could be some, but they seem to be rare. When we start holding CEOs criminally liable for the actions of corporations, corporations will cease acting like deranged sociopaths. When we start holding CEOs criminally liable for the actions of corporations, corporations will cease acting like deranged sociopaths. Delaware just voted for the right for corporations to vote in elections. Yay! Citizens United was the single worst piece of legislation that ever happened in this country. You know, it wasn't legislation, right? It was a Supreme Court decision. Even if you're making an opaque, legislating from the bench jab, I don't think that really works with CU. The groundwork for the decision was laid in earlier prior cases in the 2000s that 99% of people who complain about CU have never even heard of. Thank you for the correction. My opinion toward it still stands as being awful, but I had thought it was done through Congress. To be clear, Congress's culpability is first and foremost because they have become so divided and partisan that passing amendments over 80% of Americans would agree with has become impossible. Overturning CU really requires overturning earlier decisions, including Buckley and Bellotti, which is to say it would definitely require amending the Constitution. Lower standards for public servants. Before a scandal breaks out, they have to resign or forced to resign. Now, I don't think there's any type of scandal that can make some type of politician to stop, respect the position, and resign. Being old and on the verge of death isn't a deal anymore. Even more ironic now after the whole Biden is old thing. Add in mentally unstable too. It used to be said of Republicans that the only scandals that could torpedo their campaign would be getting caught with a dead girl or a live boy. I'm not even sure the dead girl would be a deal breaker anymore. Watergate was such a massive scandal that we still use gate as the default suffix for scandals to this day. Compare that to the sort of stuff the Trump administration gets up to on a regular basis, with nary a peep from the media. Watergate was such a massive scandal that we still use Bass-gate as the default suffix for scandals to this day. Compare that to the sort of stuff the Trump administration gets up to on a regular basis, with nary a peep from the media. They do the equivalent of several Watergates every day without consequence. F. Clinton was impeached for alleged probable sexual relations with a woman who he wasn't married to. Now we've got a POTUS who's in the middle of blatantly covering up a child sex trafficking operation that he very well could have been directly involved in, but nothing is being done by Congress, even when the actions are in direct violation of a bill that was passed to release the information about the case. Completely agree with your point, but wasn't Clinton impeached for lying under oath? He was impeached for claiming he didn't have sexual relations, in a context where sexual relations were explicitly defined as penis and vagina. It was a lawyer trap. He thought he was being clever by doing a lawyer thing, and technically not lying, because while the popular understanding of the words may be one thing, the specific definition given was another. What he forgot was that everyone fucking hates lawyers. You're not going to get out of trouble by going, "I'm not a liar, I'm a lawyer." Loss of decency. Being hateful in public is getting more and more normalized. Tolerating obvious lies from public figures and institutions. People are so bloodthirsty for anything they can shout at people they disagree with, they don't care if it's true or not. I think the second point is a symptom of a failing fourth estate, news agencies. Most of them are basically one step removed from being state-run media. In a perfect world, every lie, scandal, and corrupt official would be plastered all over the news 24/7. Every bullshit answer would be shot down immediately, and those spouting them would be pressed until the truth came out. Alternative facts was the beginning of the end. Throwback to Vance saying, "The rules were you guys weren't going to fact-check," in all seriousness, during a vice presidential debate, and not being immediately railroaded out of the venue. Our politicians can now just blatantly make shit up, and the mainstream news stations are too scared to call them on it. Not that they didn't lie before, but the current administration has made it their identity. He straight up told the news he was going to make up stories like the dogs and cats thing if he needed to. That should have, by itself, been a deal ender as well. Being hateful in public is getting more and more normalized. Renormalized. It used to be really common for various political groups to go around and attack and injure other groups. The fascists in Italy would go attack communists and then say that them fighting back was a sign that stronger order and police presence was needed, which the fascists said they would supply. Union organizing in the U.S. used to be a very dangerous job, with organizers being liable to be killed. I could list out various massacres and killings, usually by the right. The left talked a good game but kind of lost it after 1920 or so, but the denormalization of political violence can probably be dated to the 70s or so, with flare-ups like the KKK shooting of a communist march in 1979, the Oklahoma City bombing, the United the Right march, etc. With Trump's attempted coup and then re-election, we're just swinging back towards how things used to be. Which reminds me, lefties, learn to fucking shoot. Gun control is dead. The Supreme Court killed it in 2008 with the Heller decision. You don't need to keep a gun at home, and given that it's a hobby like cave diving that has a high potential to kill you, you probably shouldn't. But learn to shoot. Antibiotic coverage and herd immunity for vaccine-preventable illnesses are slowly slipping away. As a person with the same tie for almost 2 years, yes, I've had IV ones too. I'm just drinking cranberry juice and taking a test every few weeks. Lol. Seconding D-Manos. I used to get chronic UTIs every couple of months, but taking a D-Mano supplement daily has made them go away completely. There are UTI kits and stuff that some companies sell for stupid prices, but the key ingredient in their stuff is D-Manos. So just go to your local grocery store and buy a $10 bottle of their brand.